Hey folks, Craig Danger, vinyl record player. Help! Just here to, I figured I'd do this video. I know you probably were thinking to yourself, I would love some jazz opinion from somebody who has a very limited experience and knowledge with jazz. Well, you know what? Came to the right place, right here. Right here! Today we are going to be talking dollar bin jazz. Is it available? How amazing is it? I'm going to talk about my top 6 dollar bin jazz finds of 2023. Buckle up. And we're back. You know what? For much of the year, I had thought, and certainly looking at a lot of the newer releases and the re-releases for jazz titles, I just mostly assumed that jazz was going to be financially out of reach. Discovered not the case, that jazz, much like soul, rock, pop, whatever, also is available in the dollar bins, which of course, as you know if you're watching this channel, Craig Danger, vinyl record player, loves his value picks. And certainly the dollar bins and digging in the crates is where I will get a lot of those picks, particularly these days. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you 6 of the best titles I picked up for under $6 this year. Jazz titles, these are all used records as you might expect. But again, I just wanted to kind of demonstrate the incredible value available when you kind of dig in those lesser known bins. Let me start out with Be Proud from '68. How about Johnny Lytle? Now, I'd never heard of this gentleman before, but I knew because this was on the Solid State label. Jimmy McGriff in the late 60s was on the Solid State label. So I thought, I'll take a look at this. Be Proud, Johnny Lytle. Apparently Johnny Lytle, well-known, renowned xylophone player named actually Mr. Hands. He had a bit of a nickname, Mr. Hands. His name was Mr. Hands. And as far as I can tell, never really had any warrants against him. Which, again, kind of a nickname. Let's be real, friends. It doesn't always turn out well. But Mr. Lytle apparently was a huge fan of Miles Davis. Recorded between, I'd say, the late 50s and the early, or about the mid-90s when he passed. Active player. Apparently he never really was signed to a major label. Of course, this is Solid State. But very active vibes player throughout that time. Like I said, this is a really fun record. Really kind of Latin touches on this one. Just a fun listen in general. And like I say, I had never heard of this gentleman before. We'll take a look at this gentleman on the back. Johnny Lytle. Johnny Lytle. All I knew was Solid State. And you know what? For 3 bones, I will take this any day, especially in this kind of immaculate kind of condition. I was really surprised, but again, I don't know how many big Johnny Lytle fans there are out there collecting his late 60s works, but I'm really glad to have this one. Like I say, if you see any Johnny Lytle in the jazz bin, pick it up. I thought this is a remarkable album. Very good. This one I got for 5. This, of course, woo! I mean, for the cover alone, obviously I had to pick up Stanley Turrentine's The Baddest Turrentine. But the thing about Stanley Turrentine, great saxophone player, kind of played all throughout the 60s and 70s. What I will say about this is, despite the, hey, brother likes a little bit of a cigarette, likes to pull on a dart now and again. But I will say, very good player, and this is a compilation on the CTI label. That's one thing, additionally, that I should probably make a note of is there are a lot of CTI and Kudu label jazz that seems to be it just goes missed. And frankly, it ends up in these bins. This is again a compilation of sort of later 60s stuff. One of his bigger hits is called Sugar. But Stanley is important name to know because he is in the dollar bin a lot. I've seen him in the dollar bin everywhere from late 60s up until the 80s records from Stanley. He's not always the best. Some of his, he's no Coltrane, but as far as sax players go, you're not going to find very many Stanley LPs that are over 10 or 15 bucks. You just aren't. So he is a great sort of artist to pick up at a clip. And like I say, nothing's usually offensive, but this was, again, a very good buy. This is sort of a compilation of his hits. They were jazz, so they weren't that, not like everyone in America had this record. But was a really good one, and like I say, Brother likes his tobacco. Those were different times, friends. They were different times. Less cool these days, less cool. So Stanley Turrentine, the baddest Turrentine. Do you see this one? Again, on the CTI label. $5, totally worth it, totally worth it. And speaking of money, how about I Need Some Money? Eddie Harris, 1975. This kind of a little bit surprised me because I thought, well, I know Eddie Harris, him of the electric saxophone, him of another album that I'm going to talk about in this video. But I Need Some Money, I was a little bit surprised because this is about mid-70s, 1975. Stanley Turrentine never really went deep funk, but oh my God, did Eddie Harris, the saxophone player, the electric saxophone player, as a matter of fact, did he ever go deep funk? The title track on this is just, it's a pure funk number, fantastic stuff. All over this. This is a very, I would almost say it's more of a jazz funk album than a jazz album, but a lot of sort of experimental vibes on this. We got bongos, the whole thing. This is a really fun album. I got this for £3. $3 on the Atlantic label. Very, like I say, very fun. Not really much on the back, but this is a really nice album to listen to. Really funky. It made me kind of rethink Eddie Harris. I already like Eddie Harris, but picking up some of his mid-70s stuff really made me realize, wow, this gentleman was way funkier than I think he gets credit for. So I Need Some Money from 1975. You see this? This has been mint condition. I got this for $3. So yeah, classic winner, super funky. Wow, big fan of this particular record. From 74, ooh, how about Sun Goddess? Now, this one I got for $4. I got this at kind of a record show. As you can see, ooh, that is trashed, people. That is some water damage times 1,000. On the back, we got ourselves Ramsey and the players that are with him. Of course, this is produced actually by Maurice White of course, the legendary band Earth, Wind, and Fire. Of course, with Ramsey Lewis on Sun Goddess is Maurice Jennings on drums and Cleveland Eaton on bass. Where are those gentlemen from? Also from Earth, Wind, and Fire. So this is basically Ramsey Lewis being backed by a couple of players from Earth, Wind, and Fire. I think Maurice White also makes an appearance, him being the leader of Earth, Wind, and Fire. But wow, this is a funky album. The title track that rips this off, just wow, phenomenal funky album. This album I've seen a million times. You can get this around 10, but if you happen to luck into something like this on the Columbia label, like I say, water damage, no one wants this cover. This is a poor to fair cover, but the record itself is definitely VG+, which is nice to get. And like I say, I have some mid-60s Ramsey Lewis work. None of it this funky. Obviously, Maurice White and the Earth, Wind, and Fire band having a lot to do with that. But wow, this is a deeply funky record. And if you do see it, the funny thing about Ramsey Lewis, woo, he's in the dollar bin all day and all night. But a lot of that stuff is very funky and very smooth. Again, mostly instrumental stuff. There's a little bit in the way of vocals on this. But frankly, this is just, wow. This is a cooker of a record. And if you can pick it up, you should. From 74, Ramsey Lewis, Sun Goddess. It's a good one. Got this for $4. Oh, this one was a $3 one. I don't know. You're not going to see this one for $3 an awful lot. This is Les McCann and Eddie Harris from about 69, 70, live at the Montreux Jazz Festival on Atlantic. This is a very, very good record. Kind of, it was a giant seller at the time, was Swiss Movement. And yeah, really the key track on this is Compared to What, which is a Eugene McDaniel song. Les McCann playing the piano and singing on that one. There's this, and I believe there may be another vocal track on this, but the rest of it is just basically him and Eddie Harris, who, by the way, before this festival had never played together. Just step up and jam. And you know what, frankly, this is a fantastic record. It's very kind of upbeat. It is a live jazz record, but it is, you almost can't tell. The playing is really, really nice. It gets funky in spots. You got Eddie Harris, again, on saxophone. One of my favorite players when it comes to my limited knowledge. But Les McCann, Compared to What, it's about a 9-minute, 8.5-minute version of Compared to What, which is just a great song. Roberta Flack also did that song as well. But Les McCann and Eddie Harris, if you can pick this one up, under 10, super worth it. This is actually one of my favorite jazz albums. I just think it's very well done. And I don't all the time love vocals mixed with non-vocals, but wow, Les McCann just nails it with the Eugene McDaniel classic. Again, Compared to What? So yeah, Les McCann, Eddie Harris from 70, 69 on the Atlantic label. If you see this for under 10, it's worth a pickup. So there's another classic picked up in the $3 bin. And then yeah, we'll close this one out with another one. I was shocked. I was kind of in shock to find this in the dollar bin for 3 bones. Oh, Nancy Wilson, Cannonball Adderley. I believe this is from 62. On the album, it says 41 minutes and 59 seconds of jazz. It's a long album. But you know what? Nancy Wilson, this is one of the first albums that she appeared on. Woo! Really, really good. She is, I think, one of the better jazz singers. Always has a sort of a warmth to her. Really, really great tones. And of course, Cannonball Adderley. He's ripping all over this album. One of the, again, I think most people would consider him at least a top 10, maybe a top 5 sax player. And he's fantastic all over this record. And like I say, the vocal tracks kind of break it up a little bit. And, you know, this combo is like a very, very good combo. It reminds me a little bit of Les McCann did a album with who else other than Lou Rawls, kind of to begin Lou Rawls' career. Nancy, again, may have had an album or two before this, but this was a really big work for her, and she kind of picked up a lot of the jazz crowd and the jazz buyers. And Nancy had a career up into the 80s and 90s. She was recording albums basically every year. So anyway, Nancy Wilson, Cannonball Adderley on Capitol. Really, really classic record. Again, this wasn't in the best of shape. This cover is, I would give this cover a G. Good, maybe. But you know what? I mean, again, we're talking about a $3 record that, yeah, this is probably about a $15 record in prime minty condition, but something, again, that you can pick up often if you just do a little digging in the crates. So again, that has been 6 jazz classics that you can pick up in the bins for, I would say, in this case, it was less than $6, $5 and below. But of course, at any time, don't be afraid to lurk a little in the jazz bins, because there are a lot of really great things. Particularly, I would say a lot of the mid-70s jazz, when it gets real funky, is when a lot of the jazz people start to say, well, I don't know, it's too much funk. It's like, bring me that stink. I want some of that stink on my player, friends. The stinky funk. That's the danger. I don't want to say that that's what I'm all about, because that would imply, you know, there's some kind of, I guess, olfactory issue going on over here. There's not. I love the funk, but again, if you can get records like this for under $5, pick them up all day. Fantastic stuff. So that, I guess, is kind of my first specifically jazz-focused video. So subscribe for more of this incredibly amateur knowledge about jazz. But otherwise, yeah, I don't really talk about soul, R&B, and rock, so please subscribe anyway. But you know what? I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to see you on the next one.